Welcome to Replenish Your Life, a space to discover how to embody your purpose, strengthen your intuition, and manifest who you truly are. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Lucy.
And we hope you're ready to embrace your divine design and replenish your life.
In today's episode, we're chatting to Erin Rogers. Erin is an intuitive coach, mentor, and one-to-one spiritual guide, using her own powerful universal intuition of astrocartography and human design. She supports seekers to answer the fundamental questions: who am I and why am I here? To provide this, Erin had to go on her own spiritual journey. Like many, she believed that financial and career success held the keys to unlocking her happiness. She tried all the things, experienced healing, traveled the world, and constantly sought the answers outside of herself. In 2019, she discovered the answers are actually inside her, and she was able to align to her truth and recognize that she is perfect just as she is. Erin is currently living in Canada under her moon's node, creating an astrocartography course and on the hunt for the best gluten-free cookie recipe.
Hi, and welcome to today's guest, Erin Rogers. And we are so honored to have you on our podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and to connect with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm super excited. I always love a good conversation with other people that are excited about these same topics.
Nice. So tell us a little more about yourself and what you're working on right now.
Yeah, so I mean, what do people care about? I spent 15 years in corporate, specifically in recruitment in the technology field. So I've talked to a lot of people, but it never quite fit. Like, it always kind of like was the idea, and it should in theory have fit. And so I started seeking 10 years ago probably, and kind of like, what is it? What's the click that I'm missing? And just like as an asterisk, I loved astrology the whole time, but like, it was like, that's not a viable option. So was seeking in terms of, therapy and courses, teachers and healers. And then finally about a year and a half ago, I was away with my friend. Her father, unfortunately, had just passed away. And I was there trying to, thinking I'm comforting her. And she was like, "What's happening with you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm fine. I'm totally good." And she said like one thing, and I just started like bawling my eyes out. And I said to her, "It feels like I'm holding the key, but I can never put it in the right door." Wow. And the right door was that I had the answers inside of me, that I needed to stop focusing so much effort externally. And that led to kind of like this like wild year and a half where here I am today. And so in that year and a half, I realized that I had strong psychic channel and mediumship abilities that I just thought was my inner voice. It was not just my inner voice. I had found astrocartography and human design before then, so had known there were some signals, from very strong signals, but again, thought it was an answer outside of myself. I feel like it's sometimes expensive for people. I quit a 6-figure job and living in a city in a very like nice apartment. Like on paper, everything looked great, and took the leap. When I took the leap, I had no money saved. My company then offered me a completion bonus after I quit. They offered to pay for somewhere for me to stay. And so I ended up basically saving enough for where I went next, including they also hired me back on part-time remotely. So I think it's sometimes expensive to know that like you have to leap and then you'll see what comes to you.
Nice. Yeah.
Which was very like amazing, but I really couldn't have anticipated any of those beforehand. And so since the beginning of the year, it's definitely been a focus. So astrocartography, human design, but intuitive channeling, that's where everything's sort of, it's an intuitive method supported by those tools. And yeah, so I do sessions, I coach others. I'm finding the people that come to me run a business themselves in astrocartography or human design or spirituality, and kind of just need someone that understands all those pieces for them.
Wow.
and I couldn't have anticipated any of this. So hopefully that's just helpful when you're at the starting point, when you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really exciting. So you've mentioned astrocartography. That sounds really fascinating. Can you tell us more about that, what that is?
Yeah, so I'm a Sagittarius, if we want to get into it. I love traveling. I love all those pieces. So maybe it's not a surprise that it resonates with me. But in the thought is that, you know, there's a configuration of planets and the sun when you're born, and everything is energy. So that specific energetic imprint is impactful for you at the moment of birth. So we all have our astrology wheel in our chart, but something else is we could look at the sky and see where all the planets were placed. And so astrocartography, in a very simple sense, takes all those placements and overlays it on a world map. And that world map will tell you where you can experience those planetary energies.
Wow. Okay. So how did you discover astrocartography? So you started with astrology, you're interested in astrology, and how did it get to astrocartography?
Yeah, I have to admit it, you know, excited for someone to hear this, hopefully for the first time, but it was on a podcast and I was like, oh, what is that? And I get like, I can get pretty like, I'm a generator. I can get pretty turned on and excited. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Oh my gosh. And I can be very like, I will obsess. And it was just like, now I need to know. So I have like 15 books. I've taken like multiple courses. And I'll say it. I keep wavering on this. I'm going to make a course because I enjoy the marrying of human design and astrocartography, and I haven't found anyone doing that. Yeah. And so it was the course, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then it was free readings, and you see the people's feedback and the interaction. And so that's how that came to be. Human design in this, like that came first. And I also obsessively did that. So like when I was working full time, it was like I'd work and then I'd go home and study.
Sounds about right.
A bit more free time now, but it was that whole idea of like nothing really captured my attention for long, and then it was like I was obsessively doing these things, and I was like, oh, is this something? Like that whole like we don't think sometimes these things are possible, although I feel like we're all kind of the same age. That's changed significantly in the last sort of 10-20 years, where it feels much more feasible than it used to.
Much more. Yeah. And so in what ways astrocartography influenced your life?
Yeah. So I think the whole sort of seeking and figuring out, and really it was always that I was trying to fit into a box someone else designed for me. And the best way I can describe the feeling of the modalities and what they offered me was that I was never supposed to be in that box. And like, I felt like I was, you know, I had been a fish out of water, and someone finally put me back in the water, when it's like, yeah, you're not a linear human being. You're this very intuitive, connected, channeled person. That's where your gifts lie. So for me, I found out that I was born on my moon line and on my Neptune line with an influence of my nodes. And I was like, oh, like even my birth chart, where I was born, and then my human design, and like obviously they've all got similar influences, but it was like I needed the repetition of confirmation that this was by design. And I wasn't supposed to keep trying to be maybe what we think of like a Virgo-esque person, you know, like super organized, and like I got up at 7 and it was like, no, you're more flowy than you let yourself be. You're highly intuitive, where it's like I was trying to be logical. So the gift, I always just say the gift felt like someone put me back in the water.
Wow. That's really cool.
Have you both had that experience where you were like pushing and shoving, and then someone, you're like, oh, that's what flow feels like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'm not with astrocartography yet. That's, you know, one of the areas where like there's real deep fascination, but I've had that experience with human design for sure.
For sure. I agree. Yeah.
And one thing I will say on the tools, although I feel like you're gonna like, what is I would love to invite people to know that the tool is the gateway to reintroduce themselves back to who they are. Where I get sometimes concerned is the dogma It's not the answer. The answer is your own intuition and who you are right here. And that's going to be what feels very strong for me to start yelling that from the rooftops next year for some reason. But I love the tool. The tool is amazing, but it's not the tool.
Yeah.
It's just the thing that helped me reintroduce myself back here. And I just want that gift for people because I think we can get really obsessive about that holds all the answers.
Yeah. I agree. I've found that too, like over the years of knowing human design and figuring out some more things about myself and others. It's like, yeah, as you said, it's a great tool, but then it's not like to not hold on to it so tightly that this is the only answer, right? So so you mentioned you were born on your moon line and your Neptune line. So I'm are those like easier lines? It sounds like they're kind of nice, easier lines to live on. If you're looking at are there more challenging lines too?
Yeah. So I'll say one thing. So if you look at like the astrology circle, the wheel, in your birth chart, you have like an MC. So that's like where our life purpose is, like our work, right? And then we have the IC, the Imancelli, we have the ascendant and the descendant. And so in astrocartography, you will find like the moon has all four of those angles on a chart. So it just flavors it slightly, but I have a cheat sheet. So if anyone wants to reach out to me on Instagram, I'll send them the cheat sheet. That's just where I've saved it. So you can go and self-discover. I also feel very strongly that there is no bad line. The line is perfect for you. Would I recommend purposely moving to a Pluto line? No, because that's
right.
Death, rebirth, and transformation. But if you are someone who is called to that, then that means it's a perfect alchemy for you. And maybe your Pluto has a really positive placement in your human design and your astrology, and actually like you thrive. So sometimes I talk on these things and people are like, sweet Jesus, I'm living on my Saturn line. And I'm like, no. And that sounds like it's probably perfect for you. So, but for me, the moon is, it's nurturing. It's got emotions. And interestingly enough, the moon holds like a real Cancer energy. My North Node's in Cancer. And so it feels like I got to double down there where I find those things harder. Like my South Node's Capricorn. And I'm like, I could Capricorn naturally all day long. And then Neptune really, intuition. So, but for me, it's like talking about people's core life expression through intuition and like support and emotions feels like the expression that it's really important for me. And so like I was born in that energy goes with me wherever I go. And those are some pretty big themes in my life, which are kind of when I looked at that a few years ago, I was like, oh, got it.
Okay.
But like I lived in Sedona, Arizona, and I was living on my Neptune line. Too much for me. So you'll just know. And like I've moved to my moon's node now and it feels better. So you'll know what kind of energy you need and when. And those are things you can explore.
That's so really, really fascinating. So for our listeners, let's say if you live on a challenging line, okay, you find that out through your astrocartography and you can't physically move, right? What would you do? What would you suggest?
So the great news is, like obviously right now in the world, traveling isn't the number one thing that's accessible to all at the moment. Maybe not always either, but what's cool is that you could access, let's say you're on your Pluto line and you want to balance it out. So maybe you would look for your Neptune or your moon or your Venus. It would just balance Pluto out a little bit. And you can't go to your Venus line, but you could bring your Venus line to you. So that could be through the spices that you find in that location in the world, music, artists, books, film, food, essential oils, and you could invite those into your life as a balancing agent. You could also, if you have a partner, you could see if that was a positive line for them, and you could sort of ebb into their energy a bit more. But same as if you're living somewhere and you just really want to experience your Venus line, you can do that. Like, it doesn't need to be a balancing agent. Like, you're wearing beautiful green today. Green is definitely has that power of the Venus, right? Power of the heart. Like, you could even wear it through color and clothing, and really align to those rhythms. And the other thing I want to say is, if you are on a line that is quote unquote difficult, check in with yourself as to why you're there. Why are you there? What does your intuition lead you to believe? You could also look at your human design and see what gate is in that planet. And is that a gate that's really important for you to express at the moment? So by living under that planet, was that a doubling down of kind of where you should be focused? Is it a place to heal? Like, there's usually some sort of answer as to where it is contributing to your life. And that's something you can discover. Obviously, I'll say you can do that in a session with me, but you can find all this stuff online. Like, really, if you wanted to dig deep, you can find it. So some questions, I guess, to ask yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's good, because it's like, again, it's not like, you know, we're stuck somewhere necessarily. You know, there's always opportunity and ways to balance that out. So that's good.
Totally. And like, an example for both of you is, because you're business partners, and I'm just trying to take a quick peek here. Yeah. So you would look at where each of you were born on the other person's astrocartography. So like, for Lucy, Morgan was born on a Pluto moon line. And for Morgan, Lucy was born on a Saturn Venus line. So I would say there's some like supportive transformation, and maybe some like structured love. And like this is very like high level generic. Like, we could definitely go into it, but like, that stuff you could look at too, depending on the influence. Oh, actually, sorry, I didn't zoom in. It's also some intuition. So you're bringing, Lucy's bringing some intuition to you, Morgan, as well. So heightening that. And I can see that in your human design as well. So those are also interesting ways to like see where your business is birthed, see where your clients might be. You could see where your business partners are. Like, there's lots of things you could do that are even business related as well. But just fun to be like, oh, that might be some of the influences you bring to each other.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you for that. That's so cool. We'll definitely have to look into that in more detail. So Erin, just for our listeners, what's your human design type and profile?
So I am a 3-5 generator.
Awesome.
And before I even knew that, I had a few years ago, when I was like trying to get out of corporate, I was like, I know I just haven't failed enough. And then I found human design. I'm like, well, at least I was, I intuitively had an idea of how I work. So, but I think one thing that's interesting is I'm a generator, but I have a lot of projector gates. I have a lot of projector. So it's like I find I can really relate to projectors, and sometimes some of those ways that they have just the way they tend to think. So you can also look at your human design and see if you have a tendency, like you might have both of you are generator, man gen, but you might have a makeup that really lends itself to another energy as well, which is always cool to look at.
Definitely. I definitely felt connected as a generator, connected to a projector, like just the projector way of being. So I think that's also in my chart as well. So a lot of projected gates. A
lot of projected gates. I love it. So just having like a quick peek.
So how is knowing your human design, like how has that influenced you and the work that you do? How does it?
Oh, it makes me emotional. I wonder which one of you, do either of you have emotions right now? Because I have a completely open emotional center with no gate. So I'm always like, oh, I'm getting emotional. Okay, great. Love to amplify a feeling. And maybe I'm just thinking about people I've talked to in the past. It really just gives you permission to be yourself. And this really sort of physical way that sometimes we need. Like I find I read for a lot of self-projected projectors, and the relief that they experience and being like, yeah, like you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth till you say it sometimes, and that's the best way to soundboard your experience, and that's perfect. I find a lot of people, myself included, the emotions were almost so, I just see it as like there was so much in there that wasn't mine that I couldn't access anything else. And so for me, I feel like there's a certain way we have to go through the chart to sort of empty out, in my opinion. Doesn't mean it's the only opinion. And so like at work, I finally understood why things were challenging, because it was like I'd get so upset or I'd be so sad. And then once I found out about human design, I was like, oh, I'm just amplifying your emotion. And so like I was mad at somebody, and then I just started laughing, and she's like, what? And I was like, oh, I'm not mad about this. You're mad. And once you can start playing with the human design and knowing kind of what's yours and what's theirs, it just really gives you a license to experience things in a more pure form, less blame, I found. And then, to be honest, the reason I quit my job was when I was like, I'm supposed to be lit up and excited at work. I was like, well, that's not happening.
Right.
But you've told me it's possible. I'm going to experiment until I find something that does light me up. So that was definitely a big like aha in terms of, this is a signal I should be looking for that is available to me in this lifetime. This tired, drained feeling is not normal. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. And so, you know, that feeling of being lit up, that excitement or feeling enlivened, how would you say that has influenced your day to day now that you know what it feels like?
Yeah, I'm for one of it, just because it doesn't make sense, but if it gets me excited, I'm doing it. So like right now I have this sound and visuals really hit me. It's just always been that way. But recently, in the last few months, the incarnation cross, but actually more specifically the I Ching, is like, I'm like losing my mind. I'm obsessed with it. Right. I started like drawing it and painting it and making things in Canva. And like, I was like, what the heck is this? Like, this doesn't make sense. And then finally, like last week, I was like, whatever. I'm disproportionately excited about this. I'm just going to go with it. And so I've started making visuals of all the incarnation crosses, and I've crossed them over with astrocartography and put the colors of the lines in there so that you can express your incarnation cross through that color based on what you're trying to manifest.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I don't know where it came from, but I was like, and I'm not making money or anything. And that's sometimes like the thing I have to always like undo in my mind. But I was like, there's a reason why I'm so turned on by this. And it's not the thing I think is important, or like the logical reason. So I'm just going with it. And like, it's not like a small amount of work. And so that's something I probably wouldn't have followed before, but now I'm like, okay, great. So it's that kind of maybe not as logical. I also learned, say, in my one-on-one sessions, when I was doing like the formula and like telling people what I thought they wanted to hear, I felt lower. I'd be like, bleh. And my friend was like, just, if they're attracted to you, just do what comes naturally. And so then I started just channeling the whole thing, and then coming back to astrocartography and human design, like in the moment. So like less preparation, like I'm built to be in the moment, and going like, oh, here it is. Here's this thing. This is how that works. I was like soaring, like I was like flowing out of my session. So just really listening in an earnest way, where maybe before I would have been like, oh, that's coincidental, or I don't know, I would have created some reason, being like, no, if that's how you feel, then that's where you're best at your like operating and serving others too.
Oh, that's amazing. And such good like an example of how, you know, how it comes in different ways, and it's all about really what lights you up, well, as a generator. And to follow that, and to oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Good reminder.
Yeah. And it's easy to forget versus like my projector clients.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, hire that person. You'll make more money. Yeah. Go to the spa first, or whatever it is. Right. Like each like type needs to just be like, yeah, just, if that's the thing you really want to do right now, and you have space, time, and like, go ahead and do it. Or like, you know, Amanda, just drop it. Fine. Drop it. Is it going to hurt anyone? just drop it. Or can you drop it safely, or whatever it is, right? So it's like that permission that like doesn't make sense that I love the I Ching as much as I do, but okay, I do, so let's go for it. So just, I think it's really nice to be able to support people through permission to be ourselves, which sounds in some ways wild, but you know, we're all learning that we're love, we are God, we are the universe, whatever word resonates. So come back to that. So you can see I get excited. I'm like,
I got some tingles there when you said that. That's awesome.
yeah, we're all we've heard it in different ways, like we're all coming back, walk each other home, but like it's all these different things that remind us like you're love. So no, you shouldn't be miserable all the time. Would love want you that to be miserable? Would the universe want that? We have moments, but I think it's important for more of us to achieve that centering and peace and connection to the oneness, and that gets me pretty excited to talk to people about that.
Amazing, beautiful. So for someone who's new to astrocartography and human design, seeing as you work with them, you know, so closely, and you're doing this incredible integration, what are some of the key things that you've learned that you would love to share with them as a newbie?
You know what I really think is great for people is to see if they can invite intuition in first and then go look at the tools. So just like with astrocartography, I love to ask people like just intuitively, like where have you been or why did you like it? Like start with what you feel within yourself and then go and be like, I'm going to check out South Africa and I'm just going to go and look what lines are there, and then start with those lines and researching those lines and think, oh cool, and seeing how that matches up. And then in human design, you know, learning about being a generator, you know, type in profile really if you're following that, and then your authority. Some people are like, you can just hang out there for like 3 years trying to absorb it. And so, well, depending on your, you know, if you're a 1 and you're going to obsessively research, then go for it. And I obviously love the gates and channels if I love the I Ching, but like that's not for everybody. But like, so human design, type, authority, profile, a ton of stuff there. But even that, like if you just write down your thoughts about human design, intuitively see what comes to you and then go research it. Because ultimately, like I said before, it's you have all the answers. You know that you need to go to Italy next summer, or like, you know that you need to move 4 blocks west because that feels better, and doesn't always need to make sense. But see if you can start playing with the tool to sort of strengthen your own intuition.
Awesome. Oh yeah, that's great. And I find that like talking to people, or that it seems like people in conversation might say, oh yeah, I really like this place, I really like visiting this area, or I really, you know, it's probably they're intuitively connecting with that area and that location. It would be interesting to see if it lines up on their charts with that. Yeah,
totally. And like, remember that like our birthdays can be like, our birth time can be wrong, right? So that's also why it's important not to like, 'cause you have to be like, was the doctor looking at the clock the exact moment you came out, or was it like, you know how busy that operating room is, like maybe. So that's also where it's like, don't let the tool override your intuition. I find often for people that are attracted to places they've never been or have no connection to, a lot of past life stuff or lineage. So I sometimes just channel past lives. I haven't necessarily studied it, but it just comes through. And so usually it's just like something to heal. So if you doesn't make sense. It could be a past life coming in. It could be your family lineage. Like it's not always this logical thing, but listen to your intuition.
Such good advice. Thank you. So Erin, where can people find you?
I'm most active on Instagram. So you can just find me there, erinrogers.io on Instagram. I have a website. It's total shit, so don't go there. I'm like hiring. I'm doing the advice I give to other people. I'm actually hiring some people for some help. So if you hear this in a year, yes, maybe go to my website. But if you're listening to this like 2020, you can pass. You know, you can miss it. So you can go to my Instagram. I've got some information there. I've got some links. I'm always happy to have a chat. Most of the stuff right now is on astrocartography. I'm a better talker than I am a writer. So I'm figuring out how to express myself in different ways that sort of share what happens here. And then the things I'm doing at the moment are astrocartography sessions, human design sessions, channeled intuitive sessions. And I'm really loving the like spiritual business coaching, or any kind of coaching where you know your background is spiritual. So that's what's getting me jazzed at the moment. And I'll just say it, I'll have a course on astrocartography and human design within the next 3 months. So Amazing. If you want that,
here it is.
Reach out. Yeah. But that's been pretty important, and I feel pretty called to share that. But yeah, that's where you can find me right now.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. So, and one last question for you. What replenishes you?
Yeah. I mean, right now I hear it's equal parts connecting to other people's souls. Like, I don't want to ask you about the weather. And then the other part is like, is quiet time connecting right now is really what's filling my cup, and that will change. You could ask me in a week and I'll have a different answer, but that's what comes to me right now.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Erin. It's such an honor to speak to you. It's such a fascinating topic. I feel like we could carry on talking for hours, and we will put all of your details in the show notes so people can go find you on Instagram and take part in your course.
Amazing, yeah.
And book your sessions. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you both. Thank you both. It was beautiful.
Thank you. If you'd like to learn more about Erin Rogers, you can go to erinrogers.io and follow her on Instagram at erinrogers.io. For complete episode show notes and all the links mentioned throughout this episode, check out replenishyourlife.buzzsprout.com. For more information on classes, meditations, and community events to help you replenish your life, and to sign up to receive bi-monthly transformational content, check out bit.ly/replenishing life. You can also find us by searching for Replenishing Life Project on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review for the Replenish Your Life podcast. In our next episode, we're talking to author and publisher Nicola Humber all about expressing your truth, the creative writing process, and connecting to your magnificent self.